Did the NBA change the rules at All-Star break? Sure looks like it, and I don't like it at all. Next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. In today's edition of Locked on Jazz, we will look in a deep dive in the numbers of whether or not the NBA really changed the rules at the All-Star break. And it sure feels like it, and I don't like it at all. I'll explain why. And then Denver the other night, and now Boston staring us in the face. What a two-game sequence for the Utah Jazz to try to deal with. We'll look at that coming up. As I mentioned, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. If you like the show, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Give us a subscription or 5-star review on iTunes or on Spotify. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for doing so. It helps out a great deal. And to the everydayers out there, you're absolutely the best. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every day. Jazz and the Celtics tonight. That's a 7 o'clock start. It's live on Sirius XM, your hometown feed, as well as on the Utah Jazz app and on the KSL Sports Zone. Today's show is brought to you in part by Nissan. Nissan, are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further, even wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Check out all of it at nissanusa.com. All right, so it's been murmured, it's talked about. It's the number one thing being talked around the league right now of whether or not the league changed the rules. So let me go with a few premises. One is the offense actually down? So the big number that jumped to everybody was that to start post-All-Star break, 73% of all games went under on the Vegas over-under. And now last week, it was over 29-25, which means Vegas has adjusted. So that's the first part. So there certainly was some change that happened right out of All-Star break, which Vegas didn't catch at first, where everybody went under 73% of the time. Second thing, scoring goes up month by month. We've actually talked about this a lot earlier because I did a show on the massive offensive explosion that was taking place and where we were heading as a league. Third thing, I have hated this entire discussion about offensive explosion. The game is changing dramatically. The game is faster. The last basketball team that ever played in the NBA that had two players that couldn't pass, shoot, and dribble were Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors. There's always 4 shooters on the floor now. The floor spacing is there. Scoring is going to go up. We're 15 years in the Steph Curry revolution. Scoring is going to go up. What I think the discussion should have been this entire time is how does it change the game? What does it mean as a coach you're willing to do or not willing to do? And nobody seemed to want to delve into that. They just wanted to yell, scream, and complain about scoring, and seemingly it has impacted the league. Because if you were to look at points per 100 possessions, pre-All-Star break, it was 116.4. It is now 114.2. It is down 2.2 points per game. Well, is the pace of play down? The median pace team in the NBA pre-All-Star break was Phoenix at 99.3. And Sacramento is now the median pace team at 98.2. So pace is actually down a possession per team. Excuse me. Possession per team when at 1 year is about a point a game. But the numbers I gave you before were points per 100 possessions, where teams went from 116.4 to 114.2. Now, this is interesting. My first reaction was, well, maybe certain teams, Utah, for example, makes a bunch of trades at the trade deadline, has a hard time scoring afterwards, and that's bringing the average down. So instead of looking at league average and the league average I was looking at was non-blowout minutes via cleaning the glass. Let's look at median team. Median is the middle team, not the mean. We were looking at mean. We're now looking at median. So that damn thing you did in 7th grade actually comes into play now. That's more stunning. Pre-All-Star break, the median team offensive efficiency was a 116.2. Now the median team is a 112.9. That's stunning. So what's happened? So yes, first premise, scoring is down. Second premise, that's super unusual because scoring goes up as the season goes up. You go look at the last 10 years, just trust me on this. We've done it before. I'm not going to do it again. Scoring goes up. So for scoring to suddenly go down in February to March 5th, February 16th to March 12th, very unusual. Scoring per month this year was 110 in October, average offense, 115 in November, 117 in December, got calm in January, 116, and dropped in February to 114. You usually see a little dip as guys get tired, and then you see an explosion to close the year. We're not seeing it. So let's run through the various things that could be happening. Is shooting different? The effective field goal percentage, league average, according to Cleaning the Glass, pre-All-Star break was 55.1, is now 54.5. Okay, a little bit. So shooting is down 0.06%. A little bit. Let's dig into there. Are there any differences where shots are being taken? We were taking 33.1% of shots at the rim. We're now taking 32.9% of shots at the rim. Virtually the exact same. We were taking 36% of our shots as threes. We're now taking 36.6% of our shots as threes. Virtually the same. And we were taking 9.4% of corner threes, and we're now at 9.8% corner threes. Virtually the same. A little bit uptick in corner threes. Okay. Well, maybe guys aren't making them as much. So rim shooting has gone from 66.2 to 65.7, down 0.05%. Worth minor note. 3-point shooting has gone from 37.3 to 37.2. No change. And corner three shooting has gone from 39.4 to 39.2. No change. So the rim's down 0.5. So shot selection is the exact same. Rim makes are down a teeny tiny bit, 0.5%. Let's keep looking. Turnovers. It's gone from 13.6 to 13.7. Exact same. Offensive rebounds have gone from 26.9% of all misses are offensive rebounds to 27.1. The exact same. Fouls. The way we keep this number, it's never been very clear to people. It's called free throw rate. It's the amount of free throws you take compared to shots, right? So how many free throws does a team make per 100 field goal attempts? Okay. It was at 20. It's now at 17.4. The league changed the rules. They stopped calling fouls. They literally stopped calling some fouls. There's no other explanation. The foul rate has gone from 20 to 17.4 pre-All-Star break to post-All-Star break. So where are we going to see that? Well, that 0.5% of rim finishing might be it. That what used to be a foul is now a miss. And so it didn't used to count as a shot. What about drives per game? Like guys driving, contact, was getting the call, not getting the call anymore. We were having 97 drives a game. We now have 98. So there's no change in amount of drives. Drives were averaging 1.03 points per drive. They're now averaging 0.996. So we're down 0.07 points per drive. Well, Does that really matter? Well, 0.07 points per drive doesn't seem like that much until you consider that I just told you there's 97 drives per team per game, and that comes out to like 6.5 points a game. If you're averaging 98 drives per game, that must be combined between the two teams, and you've gone down 0.07, it's 6.8 points per game. Well, per 100 possessions, which is right around where games are, we're down 2.2 points per team, which is 4.4. So it sure seems, and then if you look at the median offense, we've gone from 116.2 to basically 113. It's easier to think about. 3.3, that lines up perfectly. So suddenly you're driving to the basket now, and you're taking, in theory, more contact, more bumps, less whistles than you were in January. Do we like it? I don't. I'll explain why coming up on Locked On Jazz. We're just getting started. Thanks very much for tuning in. Hope you're having a great one. We'll have that for you as we continue. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. The Murdochs, 80 years being in Utah, making sure that you have great experiences. 80 years plus in Utah, making sure you have no regrets, is the way they like to say it. And the Hyundai lineup of cars, absolutely fabulous. I'm driving one of their Tucsons right now, just loving it. I own the Ioniq 5. The other night, we went down to the comedy club, saw Gary Goldman. I had four buddies with me. And my Ioniq 5, the guys in the back, 3 in the back, weren't sardines, despite the car not being huge. And they had a ton of legroom. It's an amazing car, the Ioniq 5. And the Santa Fe's is what we got both of our kids along the way. It's all over at Murdoch Hyundai at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. If you're going to stop by, feel free to email me first. Let's make sure we take care of you and give you the VIP treatment that you deserve from Murdoch Hyundai. It's Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street. Today's show is also brought to you, and the next episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com. Performance enhancement for the brain. That's the way I like to think about therapy. A way for you to understand your brain a little bit better, understand your mind, understand what's taking place. Why are you constantly getting in the same rut? Why are you constantly ending up with the same issues along the way? How do you get yourself to react less abruptly, maybe more calmly? These are all the things you can learn through talking to someone, through therapy, so you can better understand yourself and what your triggers are. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA get you 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Therapy can be different for everyone, and that's what makes BetterHelp so great. It's flexible online therapy, which means you get your therapist online. If for some reason that therapist doesn't work for you, because therapy is different for anyone, then you go look for another one and figure out it's flexible, suited for your schedule. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. So it's clear, at least the data is clear, the NBA will probably say it's not true, that the game is being called differently. That universally, it seems as though when you compile the fact that games went under for 73% of their games for a while after the All-Star break until Vegas adjusted. When you consider the fact that scoring has gone from 116.4 per 100 possessions to 114.2, that the median team is from 116.2 to 113. When you consider that shooting is the exact same, offensive rebounding is the exact same, turnover rate, surprisingly with the fouls being called differently, is the exact same. The median turnover team, 13.3 to 13.1. The median offensive rebounding team, 28.9 to 28.3. The median free throw rate team, median, we're not doing mean anymore, median, 24.8. Post All-Star break was 21.6. Shooting, effective field goal percentage, 54.4, 54.3. So what has changed in the NBA is scoring is down and the free throw rate is down. Seems to me, fairly logically, that the NBA is calling the game differently in the second half of the season. Now, some of you might be saying, well, that's good because the offense was out of control. I personally did not find the offense to be out of control. I thought I was seeing the most gifted players in the world in an open space game with more skill than we've ever seen before, and there was a lot of scoring. But to me, that's not the right debate here. If the league wants to change the rules and alter it, then do it in the offseason. But to have this dramatic a change in the middle of the season feels really funky to me. And is a strange, uncomfortable reminder to me on how much officiating alters the way every game is played in our game. And the impact officials can have. I don't know if this is what Rudy was talking about. I think Rudy took it probably a step too far. It'll be interesting to see if he plays tonight, if he gets a foul on the jump ball, like he did the last time he erupted on the officials. That wasn't smart by Rudy. But there's something to me that's uncomfortable about the game changing in the middle of the season, seemingly for aesthetic purposes. And I don't think there's anything sinister here, but I do think it opens up a Pandora's box of people who think there's something sinister. And that's what I don't like. Per se, let's say there was a team on the way to the championship that was a really good drive team. Right? Like, let's say the Utah Jazz were 50-14, and we were under Quinn Snyder, we were the number one drive team in the NBA, and the league suddenly made a rule change that took drives from 1.03 points per drive to 0.996. I'm outraged. Right? If that had happened 3 years ago when we were the number one drive team in the league, I'm flipping out right now. And while I, again, don't in any way, shape, or form, not just because I work for the league, think that this is some sinister attempt by the league to do something of that sort, I do think that it opens up those who want to be that, complain about it, to say that there's something wrong or something sinister. By the way, the players who are the best drive guys in the league are Luka, LeBron, are our best players. So a little strange to me that we want to take away our best players. If you're wondering, for the season, the best drive teams in the NBA, and I'm this is facts. The number one drive team in the NBA is the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 2 is the Boston Celtics. Number 3 is Dallas. Number 4 is Oklahoma City. Number 5 is the Pelicans. Number 6, the Pacers. Number 7, the Clippers. Number 8, the Lakers. Number 9, the 76ers. So if you want to get conspiracy theorist, Denver's 12th. Phoenix is 13th. The league doesn't want Denver and Phoenix to win. That's not what's going on here. But it opens up that discussion. The second thing is, I think the scoring was good for the league. As someone who's calling games, 1, it was massively exciting. 2, games were never over. We've had more 20-point comebacks in an NBA season this year than ever before. 53 times this year, teams have been down 20 and turned around and been tied or taken the lead. That's good. That variance is good. High scoring, high pace, 3-point shots. We're down 18. We're within 4. The crowd's into it. That's good. When you used to be down 10, you had an 18% chance to win the game. You now have a 24% chance to win the game. That's good. We were victimized it with Quinn Snyder's teams. At the end, we kept losing these leads. And we were wondering what the hell was going on. And then we looked at the league average and it was like, oh, it's happening league-wide. We were a little more than most people, but it wasn't as outrageous as we thought. I think when you're down 15, you now can win 13% of the time. It used to be 6. That's good. Everything that was going on in the game was good. So not only do I not like them changing the rules because I think it opens up Pandora's box for people thinking things are sinister and all sorts of conspiracy theorists, and allow people who want to just be blowhards to be blowhards without any facts to it, and you're just begging for it. But I actually think where the game was good. The scoring was awesome. Luka dropping 70 was amazing, and B dropping 7 because they're so good, because they're huge, and they're 7-1. And Joel Embiid is 7-1 and can grab a rebound and go coast to coast and dunk, and that is what, like, Greg Ostertag used to be the 7-1 guy, or even just Shaq, the best 7-1, couldn't do that. Luka Doncic is 6'9", 2, and he's got the handles of Isaiah Thomas, not the one in the Stars, the old one for the Detroit Pistons, but he's the size of Rick Mahorn. Not now, then. It's good. And that's the problem to me. A bunch of people sat around in their chairs on ESPN and everybody else and bitched and complained because they don't know what else to do because they hate to talk about the game, so they want to create a controversy to get us to listen, and the NBA reacted. That bums me out. I feel like they've done this on a few other things where the narrative is being able to be set by idiots like me. Seriously. What qualification do I have? I mean, I have my opinion, but that's all. Like, the league should be making that decision without influence from me. So here's the summation. Fouls rate, scoring is down. The only statistical change of the 4 factors is foul rate. The only statistical change of anything involving scoring is drives, which impacted by foul rate. Shooting is the exact same. Pace is down a tiny bit because actually the fastest play in the game is a foul, right? You're shooting, no, clock's not moving, you just go the other side. But by 1 possession. So, to me, the league's taken away a little bit of pace, a little bit of scoring, and the best players in the world driving the basket to success. Sure, the league, these guys are unguardable because they're unguardable. It's where I sit on it. And I don't like it. League's been unbelievably great at altering rules over the years and adjusting. This feels dramatic, and I don't like it's in the middle of the season. And they didn't change a rule, they changed an emphasis, is what they'll say. If they agree to it. We'll see. Be interesting to see if it swings back. People are starting to talk about it. Teams are starting to talk about it. We'll see if it swings back. March is usually the biggest offensive month of the NBA by far. So be curious to see whether it swings back. All right. What did we learn from the Denver Nuggets blasting us and shooting lights out to now facing a Boston Celtics team who just blasted the Portland Trailblazers last night, who comes in here? We'll see who they play and who does not. Bunch of guys sat last night. Kristaps did not play last night. I think they were without Drew Holiday last night. So we'll see who goes tonight for them. They were so much better than Portland last night. The way Denver was so much better than us. The best teams are on a different level right now. It's kind of awesome, actually. So we'll see Boston, who's really awesome. And we'll talk about that as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Nissan. Shop nissan.usa.com. Nissan's got a great lineup right now for you, so let's run through it. The Nissan products are the Nissan Rogue. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect city drives, great escapes, class exclusive Google built-in, always updating assistant to call on from anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. The 2024 Rogue is perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. The Nissan Pathfinder has room up to 8 and expansive cargo capacity, advanced availability, 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower. And the Nissan Armada will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style, tow bigger. Explore further in 2024 Armada. The Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada. Go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Today's show is also brought to you by LinkedIn. Small business owners, you know that hiring is 1, difficult, 2, time-consuming, and 3, like a crapshoot. That's where LinkedIn gets better. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It's a vast network, more than 1 billion professionals. It makes it the best place to hire. Gives you access to professionals you can find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all this while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn because you're wearing so many hats. Time, resources. Let LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNBA post your job for free and help you out in the hiring process. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And make sure you check out the first ever national 24/7 stream, Locked On Sports Today. It was so good yesterday with all the free agent signings. Think stories would break. Then all of a sudden, Locked On Falcons was up there. Then Locked On Vikings. Then Locked On Packers. Then our fantasy shows breaking down the fantasy impact. It was such a good day yesterday. All right, by the way, here's where we sit in the standings. We are now 9th. So we have our draft pick. In the draft, we're 9th. Brooklyn is 5-5 in its last 10. They are 2.5 games worse than us. It's really hard to compare. And 2 in the win column. So ideally, we try to get to 8. That just gives us a little bit more safety. It's also better draft position, and it seems feasible. Toronto is not catchable at 7. So the best draft position we could end up in is 8th. Atlanta and Houston are both 1 game ahead of us overall, and in the win column, they're at 10 and 11. Chicago is now 3 games ahead of us in the win column, though they've lost 2 in a row. And we want to be at least in 9, because if you're in 10, there's like about a 24% chance that somebody jumps you into the top 4, and then you slide to 11. Boston's really good. They're 50-14. My take watching the Boston-Denver game that everyone's talking about says, oh, Denver's proven, was actually Boston showed they're every bit as good to win the title. I thought both those teams proved in that game they could win the title. Like, that was my take. Was, yeah, sure, Denver won, but Boston didn't shoot it particularly well that night, was in the game to the final moments, played right with them, and as great as, frankly, as great as Boston is, or as great as Denver is, they were able to kind of stay in the game and play right with them, which was, I thought, super impressive. And so I did hear, again, the same kind of idea that we're going to take just extremism on every single analysis. I took the opposite. That game showed me both these teams are completely capable and ready to win a title. And that's where they're now. Boston is ridiculous statistically. They're the number 1 offensive team, the number 2 defensive team. They're the number 2 team in half court. They're the number 7 team in transition. They're the number 5 team in half court defense. The number 1 team in transition defense. They're going to get criticized because they take the most threes of anyone in the league, but they're the fourth best 3-point shooting team. And they're the 4th best team defending the 3. They're the 2nd best team in effective field goal percentage. The 2nd best team in effective field goal percentage defense. They're the 4th best team in turnover rate. They don't force turnovers. The only thing they do below average is they don't force turnovers. 6th best defensive rebounding team and number 1 team in the league at not fouling. By the way, that's not as big an advantage anymore if the league's not calling as many fouls. Just a thought. I would say the league rules, a little switch on rules does not help them. Last night, they lambasted the Portland Trailblazers. Scoot Henderson played his 2nd game back, I believe it was. They did not have Porzingis. They did not have Holiday. So I don't know the status of those guys. And they won 121-99 in a game that was not particularly close. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are pretty much on fire right now. It's interesting to watch right now. Teams are just kind of amping it up in a way that usually we don't always see. In fact, last year, Denver kind of did the opposite. Denver took it off. Boston can take the throttle off at some point here because they have the 8th best, or the 8-game lead. They're only 3-2 on this trip. Jaylen Brown comes in here, last 5 games, 29 points a game, 49% from the field, 36% from 3. Tatum, last 5 games, 50% from 3. Sam Hauser, by the way, is playing really well for them. They just are well put together. Danny and Brad just did an unbelievable job putting this team together. They're the model, frankly, of everything you want. Last 10 games, Jaylen Brown's played 9 of them. He's averaging 28 points a game. So he comes in here flame throwing. Tatum's averaging a little below his average, 27. He's at 25, but he's shooting 45 and 43. They're super good, and they're ready to roll. Here's the thing for us. I didn't think Will was much more complimentary post-game than I was, so he was right and I was wrong. I just didn't think we played as hard as we could have the other night. I didn't think we played with force offensively, and I didn't think that we played defensively impacted their actions. I thought we were kind of in awe of what they were doing. Last time we played Boston, it was the most dominating opening 4 minutes of a basketball game I've ever seen in my life. They hit us so hard, so fast in the opening 4 or 5 minutes of that game. It was just stunning. And so I want to see tonight, can we we'll be younger, we'll have less experience. Can we at least match their force early? I think they're better than we are, and that's fine. But can we match their force early? Own our own space would be the request I would have early in this. It's a hell of a 2-game stretch for the guys. This, and then you got to make sure that, I think Will did a really good job post-game. You got to make sure your guys don't get beat up by this. Right? You're about to face the 2 best teams in the NBA. I'd be stunned if the NBA Finals is not Boston, Denver. And how do you handle the fact that you're playing the 2 best teams in the league back to back, and do you get beat up by it? All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. Interested in your thoughts? Feel free to hit me at dlock09 on Gmail, dlock09 on Twitter, dlock09@gmail.com, or feel free to hit me on X at dlock09. That's Twitter. Or on the YouTube comments about all we talked about. Thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for making it your first listen of the day. Here's the first ever 24/7 national sports stream, Locked On Sports Today, also available on Amazon Fire TV.